a long journey. It's tough, but it's super awesome. Consulting is great. And all of you helping great. If you haven't already, definitely sign up for the giveaway for our consulting boot camp. We'll be talking about, I'll briefly mention it here in a bit, but take a second and sign up for that if you haven't yet. Let's get started momentarily. Okay, let's get started. So first, just again, wanted to welcome all of you here. I'm so excited to have you in the Leland community. If this is your first free Leland event, welcome to Leland. If you're an old timer, we're glad to have you back. If you've never signed up for Leland, click this link here or go to joinleland.com, sign up. We've got a lot of great free events led by expert coaches to help you achieve your goals. And I'll introduce Leland here in a second as well. Start off with some intros. We'll dive in and talk about breaking into consulting and then end with the final word. So first, a brief intro to myself. I am currently on the growth team at Leland, but I've been a coach at Leland for a lot longer than I've been on the Leland team. Prior to Leland, I founded a YC-backed startup. So loved the startup world, and then prior to that, was a consultant at BCG. Also had an offer to McKinsey, got to final rounds with Bain, and got offers from other top consultancies as well. So pretty familiar with the consulting world. If it hadn't been for this YC startup, I would be a consultant right now. I love consulting. I think it's a great career path, and we'll talk about it. But have a wide network in the consulting world and have since, as a coach, helped dozens and dozens of folks, I think over 100 now, through consulting interviews and ultimately to land offers and to succeed in this journey. So just super excited to be here and connect with all of you, and look forward to sharing more. To introduce Leland, again, if this is your first time with us, we're the one-stop shop to help you achieve your goals in your career, and that includes educational goals like breaking into top MBA programs. That includes careers even outside of consulting. If you have interests that include private equity, product management, investment banking, and others, we've got coaches in all of these areas and more. And we not only have one-on-one coaching with folks like myself, and even with folks who have been partners at these firms. We also have courses. We'll talk about our consulting course here momentarily, live with coaches that also kind of have a little community element with mock interviews and other things. And then we also have our content library. We have a consulting content library in Leland Plus that has tons of cases, training drills, videos from top consultants, example resumes, outreach templates, a lot more. So lots of great stuff here on Leland to help you break into consulting, and again, many other industries. So glad to have you here with us. And just to kind of put a little more face to that, we have helped so many folks to land their dream roles from so many different backgrounds. And I didn't know Daniel personally. He worked with another coach, but Alex and Sarah, I knew personally, and actually attended our boot camp this past summer, and both got Bain offers. So just super fun to work with folks as they go on to achieve their goals, and some then come back and become coaches on Leland and give back, which is so great. So just a quick plug, what does it mean to have a coach? Why work with a coach? You'll probably see, a lot of why you might want to coach as we talk about breaking into consulting. But just to kind of nail down, this is just a competitive process. It is a very low percentage of folks who are applying to consulting are actually breaking in. And so working with someone who has been there, done that, gone through the process before themselves, and helped many other people to do it gives you a major competitive advantage that many people don't have. And you'll find that regardless of whether you're working with a coach on Leland, you will need to case with consultants. and with others to prepare for your case interviews. So it is so critical that you at least have a mentor, if not a coach, someone on Leland to help you through this process. It's just so powerful. It turbocharges your application and recruiting process to work with someone like a coach. And I would love to work with you. Amanda, I think through my intro call link into the chat, book 15 minutes with me, totally free to chat with you about what it might look like to work together with me as a coach. So definitely, if you're interested, take a look and book a time. But to dive a little bit more now into the world of breaking into management consulting, this may not be new to most of you, but just to give a brief overview of what consulting is, there's a few different things to think about. If you're considering consulting as your career path, you're on the fence. Well, it's absolutely amazing. It's a wonderful career path, and there's a few reasons why. Number one, you're working with the people at the top of the company to fix their most important problems. Consultants get hired by CEOs, by strategy teams, to come in and determine what the solution is to their most pressing needs. You develop strategy alongside those top leaders. And part of that strategy is not just fixing problems, but identifying new opportunities. One case that a friend was on that was really interesting was an airline thinking about the impact of self-driving cars on their business. Why would they be thinking about that? We'll consider this. If you're thinking about, a short flight, let's say a 2-hour flight versus hopping in your car for 5 or 6 hours and just falling asleep, a lot of people are going to take the car. And so these short haul flights are going to be impacted by the advent of self-driving cars, here in the next decade or so. And so consultants are going in thinking about, okay, what's the strategy? How do we mitigate that risk? What opportunities does this airline have to kind of expand and mitigate that? So just really cool opportunities as a consultant that you have to learn and run up the learning curve on lots of different industries. There are many awesome consulting firms. The three that you'll hear the most about are McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. You may have heard MBB. Those are often called the big three of consulting. But I think a mistake that many people make is limiting their scope and their view to these firms. There are so many other amazing firms, LEK, Oliver Wyman, Cicero, Accenture, and many more. All of the big four accounting firms also have a consulting arm. And there are many more boutique firms even beyond this. And most of them, you're able to, with the brand even of LEK and others, you're able to ultimately, develop the same career opportunities and get to the same places that you might with McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. That said, McKinsey, BCG, and Bain are very well known and have a lot of prestige associated with them. And so most of the folks that I work with are looking to break into these firms. So definitely cast a wide net, but absolutely shoot your shot with McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. And if you're really going for it, you're going to need to work super hard, and we'll talk about what that takes. So again, why consulting? We've talked about a few of these things. There's a wide variety of work. You'll be working across lots of different industries. That work is very high quality. It's not you're not just kind of in the super weeds of operations. It's a lot more strategic. You're making a big impact on these companies. And of course, money, right? We love money. You're compensated really well coming out of undergrad or MBA or as an experienced hire making a pivot. They are consulting firms are leading the market often in compensation. There's a lot of exit opportunities. A lot of folks from consulting will go on to MBA and then a search fund or private equity or other finance opportunities, or come in as senior strategy folk or operations folks at businesses and industries they've consulted with. So really great career path. All that to say, anyone here on the fence about consulting, hopefully you recognize this is an absolutely amazing industry. And I wanted to lead with that because it's not easy. The journey to become a consultant and to break into this industry is very hard. So you want to keep your eyes on the prize. You want to have a very clear picture of why you personally want to become a consultant and land one of these offers to then go and do the difficult work that it takes to get there. So we've already talked through all this. I want to talk more about what you'll need now to break into consulting. There are three core aspects to your journey that you should be considering as you're thinking about what will it take for me to land a consulting offer. One is the preparation ahead of the application, and that's having the right resume, having the network, and preparing for the case interview well before you apply. And second then is the application itself. You'll build your profile in the application. You'll want to get referrals. You'll have aptitude tests as part of that initial application. And then once you get past that round or that screen, you'll then be invited to interview. And that for some firms now includes an online case interview robot. And then a first round interview or a live interview with a consultant, and then a final round interview with partners. So we'll dive into each of these and kind of talk in more depth about it. We'll take some questions at the end. If you have some questions, throw them in the chat. I want this to be interactive. But first, just kind of want to lay the foundation and hopefully answer some of your questions ahead of time. And then we'll dive through and see in the chat, what I can be helpful with on the details here. So first, preparation. What do you need in terms of your resume, in terms of your personal foundation to break into consulting? So and none of these I would say are are to be considered in a vacuum. So first, talking about academics, for example, you want above a 3.8. If you have less than a 3.8, it's not it's not a hard and fast rule such that, oh, you've got a 3.79, you're not going to get into consulting. But what it means is that you need to spike in other areas on your resume and in your preparation. If you have a 3.67, but you have a 35 on the ACT, you're probably going to be all right, as long as in your cover letter you're explaining well why you don't have a higher GPA. You're able to kind of explain the narrative. Maybe you had a tough time your freshman year or something like that. And I work a lot with folks on, determining, okay, here's the narrative we need to spin for the application to make sure you're competitive. But beyond GPA and ACT, which are super important, and in fact, so important that if you have below a 30 on the ACT and you want to break into consulting, you should retake it. Hands down, if you have less than a 30, you're going to want to retake the ACT and get that up to at least a 30. Better, 33 and above is where I would be shooting for. I had a lot of friends who retook the ACT in college and ended up getting into consulting. If you're in an MBA, you can use your GRE or GMAT score instead of your ACT. I would frankly just use whatever is the highest percentile on your resume to kind of indicate that you have the strong intellectual horsepower. So anyway, test prep aside, all of that is a strong signal and something they use to screen resumes. But beyond that, you want to have leadership. If you're a student of student organizations, be involved in the community as an experienced hire and other academic merits. As a student, you want excellent internship experiences. As an experienced hire, you want to show that you have been a shining star in your role. And we'll talk momentarily about what it looks like to showcase your work experience. We'll also talk about networking more here, but ultimately what it's all about is making yourself known. You do want to have a brand for yourself at the firm. And it's not just talking to recruiters. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They try and just set up calls with recruiters at these consulting firms. The recruiters don't make the decisions. It's the consultants. It's the people on the ground that end up interviewing you, and the partners that interview you and ultimately make the decision. The recruiters are part of the process to kind of generate inbound for getting people to apply, and they may be part of the screening process, but talking to recruiters is not going to help you. Talking to people who have been at the firm for a few years or less, even, a year or an alumnus from your university or MBA program or what have you, that is helpful. So we'll dive more into that. And then, of course, as part of your preparation, you need to be focused on the case and fit interview. You need to, well ahead of your application, be developing the skills you need to crack the consulting interviews. And we'll talk about what those entail. So we've already talked through the GPA and test score piece. I just briefly wanted to take an aside and mention our course before we move on and talk more about preparation, because this is, as you're thinking about ramping up on networking and resume, you're thinking about ramping up on your case and fit prep, this is frankly the best way to do it. I wish this course had existed when I was going through the consulting prep process, because I had to go and literally spend 2 years figuring out all of these things on my own. And now, being a coach and being on the other side of it, I'm able to teach and deliver all these strategies and insights. And I'm just one of the 8 coaches that you'll interact with in the course. It starts here in just a few weeks, and it'll be held at 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday and Wednesday. Just such an awesome opportunity to work with me, with others, and actually in kind of this community setting where you're learning and going through these modules. We're focused on the job search, resume, and networking, but we're also diving through every aspect of the case interview that you need to know: brainstorming, structuring, market sizing, all the games and Pymetrics and aptitude tests that we talked about. And not only do you get all the live instruction, but you also get the peer mock interviews. You get a one-on-one case interview with a coach like myself. And you'll build an awesome network of other consulting applicants, to say nothing of you also get a consulting certificate at the end. So if you were to buy all of that on Leland, it would cost almost $3,000. But for everyone here on this event, it's only $700. You'll get a discount code for $500 off of our standard price by signing up for the giveaway. And one of you on the event today is going to win a free seat in that bootcamp. So if you haven't already, again, sign up for the giveaway. And Amanda will throw that link in the chat. Would love to work with any and all of you at the bootcamp. It really is just such a fantastic opportunity to get everything you need to crush the consulting process. So anyway, without further ado, would love to work with you there, but also want to talk more about, okay, how do we think about building the foundation? And on the work experience side of things, you need to have 2 things. You need to have at least one of 2, a big brand or a big impact. So what does that really mean? The big brands is pretty straightforward. You've worked for a Fortune 500 company, and a reputable brand that consulting interviewers will recognize and value. A big impact is more nebulous. But basically, think of it as punching above your pay grade in terms of your career and trajectory. You maybe early on in your career, even as an intern potentially, took on a leadership role, took on a major project, had a large success in terms of growing revenue or reducing costs. You're able to quantify and show that impact. You led a team of X number of people. That's what a big impact looks like. And what's unfortunate is just that those are often at odds. Making a big impact is not always easy when you're at a big company. So between the 2, I actually would opt for the big brand, because what consulting firms are looking for is they're looking to find someone who is successful already, someone who is already vetted. And those other firms, these other top firms are the big brands will vet you as you go through their recruiting process. But I didn't have a big brand going into my consulting internship applications. I had been, a sophomore in college and didn't have the chance to work at a Walmart or what have you. And so I went in as an impact investing intern and made a big impact, led a team, built some awesome, investment memos that led to gains for the firm. And that was what I pitched. The best scenario is having both, right? And what that looks like is coming from investment banking, VC, consulting, big tech. In those in those big brands, you'll also be able to have an impact in your work experience. Most people aren't able to get to that place. And so I would be thinking about, that I would try and have both. If you can't have both, have a big brand. If you can't have a big brand, have a big impact. And again, I was on that third tier. I'm not from a target school. I went to BYU, and I ended up getting offers at 2 of 3 of the MBB and final rounds with the third. It is possible. I just want to emphasize that again. No matter where you're coming from, if you're willing to work hard enough, get the foundation, the work experience, the test scores, everything that it takes, you can do it. And part of that work is networking. It's you cannot just apply for consulting in a vacuum and expect to succeed. McKinsey looks more at the resume. Bain cares a ton about networking, and a lot of the other firms are kind of in between that spectrum. But even with McKinsey, it's still important to network so you understand their recruiting process, so you know more about their behavioral interview or the PEI. And other things that are kind of nuances to McKinsey's process. So no matter what consulting firm you're looking to work at, you need to have at least 2 to 5 connections. And frankly, at your top firms, it should be more than 5. This is just a bare minimum. And I would be talking not only to full-time folks, but also to interns. Why? Because interns are a lot more forgiving. They're willing to, they'll be willing to go out on a limb to help you. People who have been at the firm for 3 years, they've seen so many folks come and go and say, oh, I really want to break into consulting. But the interns are still fresh, or new full-time hires, and they'll be more willing to help. I say, begin reaching out by the end of March. This is thinking about, an undergraduate or graduate timeline. But frankly, that's like the latest that you could start. I would start now. And I would be thinking about having multiple networking calls every week. Frankly, if you're recruiting for 7 firms, which I think is probably the right number, if not a little low, I would be having conversations with 2 people at your top, maybe 1 or 2 firms every week, and then 1 person at all the others every week. That's a really high bar. Shoot for that. If you don't get quite there, that's okay. But that's what I would be pushing for. And you're not just wanting the quantity, although that's important. You also want to build quality relationships, and quantity begets quality in the sense that the more people you talk to, the more likely it is that you find someone at McKinsey who you really connect with, who you really find a personal relationship with, someone who's willing to case with you regularly, someone who's willing to be a mentor and refer you in the process. Ultimately, that's a big portion or a major reason for networking is you want to have someone, if you don't already, who will be willing to make a referral for you once you've sent in your application. But you also will learn so much from networking. It's absolutely critical that you are not just using this to try and get a referral, but really learning about the firm, eventually practicing cases. Not initially, I would not start casing with consultants until you're well versed in the case interview, but also giving back to them and creating value for those consultants where you can. And would love to talk more. I work with a lot of folks on a personal networking strategy from where you're at to kind of where you need to be, and would love to talk more about tactics and strategy in a one-on-one setting. But who should you be thinking about? I mentioned you need to ramp up on case prep before you start casing with consultants. Your first case, I would try and find someone who is very forgiving, but knows what they're doing. And that's, for many folks, that's a Leland coach. For others, that's a friend who is already in consulting. But you need someone who understands the case process well and can sort of guide you through it, because you are going to make a lot of mistakes. My first case, I remember it was about tractors, and it took me, I think, like an hour, maybe a little more, when in the actual interview, these cases are 25 minutes or less. I was not great, and you won't be. This is a new format. And so some of you out there, might just crush it right away. You've got the strategic mind, and that's great. But for the vast majority of us, it takes a lot of casing. And so you want to get that first case out of the way with someone who's very forgiving and can give you a lot of tips and pointers. Cases 2 through 10, you'll want to practice with someone in others in your network. Maybe that's your Leland mentor, that's a family member with business experience, others in your network who are also planning to break into consulting. Folks on this call are great for cases 2 through 10. If you're a little bit into the consulting journey, if you're not already in the Leland Slack community, we have a case interview prep community where a lot of folks will just say, oh yeah, anybody want to run a case, and we'll get connected to that. So Amanda, if you have a second to throw the link to our Slack in the chat, definitely encourage you to, if you're looking for a case interview buddy, to come join our community. And that's totally free. But beyond that, cases 2 through 10, I would continue to case with a mock interview partner, others, your coach. But I would also add in full-time consultants to the mix, especially once you feel like you are really strong. 11 may be too early for many folks. Let's say you've done 20 cases and you're still not feeling solid. Get to 30 and then go, work with consultants. So these are not hard and fast numbers in terms of that 11. You should start turning on, cases with consultants, but it is a lot more about how well are you doing in terms of your case prep. I think I probably did 60 something cases before I got my offer. I think for some folks it's 20 or 30. For some it's even triple digits. So really, you need to do what works best for you, and what will take you to that upper echelon. You need to be in the top 5% of case folks to really succeed in the interview. So how do you do this? What does it take? First, you need the materials for mock interviews. You need practice cases, and Leland Mentor will absolutely have practice cases. Leland Plus has practice cases. That's, I think, plus.joinleland.com. You can find some. If you have a university consulting club, they will have a litany of practice cases, and absolutely, you need to get involved in your university consulting club, even if you're an experienced hire. Whatever stage you're at, go back to your university and try and get involved in the consulting club somehow. Attend events, whatever you can. It's such a powerful resource. And then there are lots of publicly available resources as well. McKinsey has some publicly available cases, and others. Again, I mentioned Leland Plus. One thing that's so critical, though, is that you don't just run cases over and over again. Marathoners don't just run marathons. They drill, they break it down. You should be breaking down cases into their component parts. You should be focusing on structuring, on brainstorming, on mental math, on market sizing, on charts and data analysis, all the things that go into the case. And that's with the course, the boot camp, we've broken it down for you and kind of helped create modules so that you'll be able to learn that. But whatever you do, whether it's our boot camp or not, you need to break it down. You need to be drilling and not just running the full marathon again. Right now, download a mental math app. Just search mental math app in your app store, download a mental math app, and spend 5 minutes a day on that sucker. At least, maybe more, right? Depending on where your baseline is. You need to be able to do mental math well so that you can perform in the case interview. I tell you, mental math is harder when your job is on the line. So you want to just have it down pat. And again, our community Slack, great place to connect with folks and prep. So how often, how much casing should you be thinking about doing? Well, 6 months out. So if you're on the internship timeline or full-time timeline, coming out of undergrad or even second year MBA, this is you're about 6 months out and maybe a little bit less even. So I would be looking at least one case a week and 2 to 3 drills a week of a consulting case. If you're 3 months out, so let's say March rolls around, April, and again you're looking at July applications, I would be looking at 2 to 3 cases a week and 2 to 3 drills. 2 months out, you're ramping up to 3 to 4. 1 month out, 5 cases a week minimum. And this is a tall order. That means you need to have a lot of inventory in terms of the cases that you can do, the people that you're working with. And one way to get around this a little bit is to find mock interview videos. Leland Plus has quite a few. YouTube also has quite a few. Ours are better, I just have to say, but I would utilize all of it, right? I would do all of it because you're going to need all of these cases to succeed. So this is the cadence I would be thinking about. Tailor this to yourself. You'll find, you might need more. You might feel, oh, I'm getting burned out. I'm gonna, pull back this week and do a couple cases instead of 4. Do what, mold this to yourself, but this generally is the kind of case plan you should be thinking about. So, and what does it mean to really crack the case interview? I wish I could dive in more here, but the high level is you're going to create a prioritized structure to solve an unstructured problem. And then you're going to leverage data that the interview will give you to validate your hypotheses and make a recommendation to solve that problem. So and a lot of these cases are constructed based on actual consulting cases that partners have done. So this is a great way to also experience consulting. Again, if you're on the fence about it, go do a practice case. And if you hate it, but you think it's interesting, you're probably on the right track. And hopefully, eventually, you get to the point that you love it. And I'll talk a lot in the boot camp about this and with my clients, but showing the interview that you love the case is huge. Because the metagame of the case interview is not just making a recommendation. It's also a behavioral interview. They want to see that you're a good fit to work at the firm. They want to see that you're excited, that running a mock case is not just drudgery. It's actually a really interesting problem that you want to solve, because that's what it takes to be the kind of person that will succeed at these firms. So I have a lot of tactics to do that, but just something to think about going into your case prep. So that's all preparation. And that is the bulk of it. It's a lot of preparation, many, many hours, as you can see, maybe, 100 plus hours of preparation, including the networking, the casing, all of it. Beyond that, then you're applying, right? You as you're applying, what happens on the other side of the table? Of course, you submit your resume. You hopefully have someone who can refer you in the firm's internal portal. And you may go through a little aptitude test, kind of like an IQ test that they use as a screener. And then on the other side of that, once you've passed the screener, and frankly, there's not a ton that you can do to prep for the screener. There are practice screeners available online. I'm dubious as, or doubtful as to, the efficacy. I think they're just looking for, smart folks. And so the long and short of it is be smart. And if you can, run a couple practices there. But again, on the other side of the table, what does it look like? Junior team at the firm. And this is especially true at Bain. A few years of experience, looks at the application. And often they will do this, especially for undergrads and MBAs. They will do this based on your school. They'll look at the pool of applicants from the Kellogg MBA program, and they'll say, okay, we're going to sort the best candidates based on who we know. And that's, again, the networking is so critical, because you won't even get an interview without that networking. They'll say, okay, yep, yeah, Nick's a smart dude. I talked with him a few times. We should give him an interview. Or I don't. Who's Nick? Don't know him. And as good as your resume is, you won't get an interview if that's the case, right? And then beyond that, partners and managers will choose from those based on the quality of applications. They'll have a certain number of interview slots, and ultimately then extend an interview invite if you are if you're accepted. So interview slots, again, segmented by university, and there's also experienced hires. If you're looking to pivot, let's say you're an accountant looking to pivot into consulting. I had many coworkers from a similar background there, and interview slots for experienced hires are often on a rolling basis. You can apply at most times in the year. Now is actually a really good time if you're an experienced hire, thinking about March-ish to apply. So just another thing to note there. So again, timelines do vary by firm. Full-time is usually a little bit earlier than the internships, mid-July, August. And frankly, things get earlier and earlier every year. You might see the internship deadlines are August this year. So be up to date on that, especially with your top firms. Always, if you are a first-year MBA, if you are in your junior year, or sorry, rather sophomore year, you should be thinking about an internship. Always shoot your shot for an internship. If you don't get it, and internships are more competitive than full-time. There are fewer internship seats than there are full-time seats. So shoot your shot for an internship. If you don't get it, come back and apply full-time. And get a big brand in the interim, right? Go work for a big tech company, and then come back post junior summer and apply, or post MBA first year and apply. Failing to get an internship will not hurt you in full-time recruiting. In fact, I've seen sometimes folks will actually delay graduation by a semester so they have a second shot at an internship, and then full-time after graduating. So the macroeconomics is such a major part of the equation. And things are improving for consulting, especially AI. You wouldn't believe the amount of AI consulting that is going on right now with top firms. They're hiring, consulting companies to come help them figure out their AI strategy. So it is a good time right now, but if somehow you get impacted by a downturn, maybe extend another semester if you can, or what have you, or apply again in the future. Don't just give up after one application. So just first round interviews, a quick high level overview. And this actually does vary office to office and year to year. So, this may not be exactly what you see, but it's going to be close. McKinsey has a solve game. It's almost like a tower defense game. And then you'll go through 2 case interviews and 2 PEIs, these really deep, in-depth personal behavioral interviews. Bain has brief fit interview, a couple case interviews, and I think they have implemented a test this year. That's definitely something to look out for. BCG has a Pymetrics game that they tried in the past, and I think now they're using a different aptitude test. They have a virtual case interview, and they have an online chatbot that you'll go through with a case interview, and you'll do a fit interview along with that. And that's often the first round. I have a friend who I've been working with. He's applying as an experienced hire to an office in the Southeast. And they are also adding, along with the online chatbot, a live case interview to that first round. But you will have live case interviews in the final round. So anyway, just wanted to cover those. And there are idiosyncrasies to every single firm's case interview process. And again, can't underscore enough, this is why networking is important. You will learn so much about the interview process by chatting with folks who've gone through these interview processes, and coaches who've gone through these interview processes. So then again, that's the first round. Final round, it's typically 2 to 4 cases, and a long personal experience interview at McKinsey, an in-depth fit interview at BCG. These used to be in person. They've been on Zoom since COVID, so that's what I would expect. A little more structure and brainstorming based with partners, less quant heavy. That's a generalization, not always true. But ultimately, then you go through that whole process and you land the offer. And so again, I just want to emphasize that this takes so much work and time. And it really is a journey of investing in yourself. You have to develop yourself as a strategic thinker. You have to develop your resume, your foundation, the networking, and your professional relationships, and the ability to build new relationships. And it's hard. It takes a lot of time and effort, but you can do it. It's absolutely possible. And if you're at all interested in consulting, go run a practice case, learn more about this, dive in with Leland Plus and check it out. Or watch a case on YouTube. Just give yourself the chance. This is an amazing industry. It's something you want to be in, but it takes work. And again, working with a coach can be a shortcut in that process. So all that, without further ado now, we mentioned the giveaway, and I want to announce the winner here. I'm gonna get that from Amanda really quickly. I'll pause my screen share. And the winner is Jan Fossler. Jan, congrats. So excited for you, and super excited to work with you directly here in our upcoming boot camp. For everyone else, I would love to work with you there as well. And I think I set up a text automation from my phone that will text you the link and a discount code to join the boot camp. If you have any questions at all about it, text me. That's my phone. And frankly, if you've got a one-off question about consulting, text me there too. I'm just glad to be able to connect. And again, if you didn't set up an intro call with me, set up an intro call. I also have a link to chat with Leland's client success team. This is totally free. We've got other consultants on the team who'd be happy to help you kind of determine, okay, what type of coach should I be looking for? What should I be thinking about in terms of my consulting prep? And so we just would love to chat with you, again, myself or others at this link, bit.ly/meet with Leland. And we want to get you started on your journey. So anyway, all that said, it's been so great to be with all of you. I'm sorry we didn't have time for questions. I know I'm just going on and on, but hopefully these tips, I've been trying to stay tactical and hope that all of this is helpful. So reach out. We'd love to stay connected. We'd love to see you in the boot camp. Text me. And all that said, let's land the offers. Want to see a lot of you at consulting firms in the future, and come back as coaches on Leland. So have a good one, everyone, and thanks for being here today.